Schtick Show.
How's it, Shticklers? The Joystick Show is back for our weekly talk story about things we've read, watched, played that are bringing us joy. Shakas Mahals for sticking around. If can, please like and subscribe on any podcast platform and on YouTube. I'm your co-host Drake. That's Thomas.
What up, what up?
And that's Scott.
How's it?
And today we have a super guest especial. Thomas, why don't you intro our super especial guest?
Oh yeah, I got a friend on the show. Super happy she could join us. She, along with so many other things, hosts a podcast that I am looking for right here. No, there's the intro. You could say I'm... What's that?
Strange New Pod.
No,
Is that the name?
I wanted the whole spiel, though. You're right.
Yeah.
Strange New Pods. But yes, she is a Star Trek podcaster. She is a cosplayer. I mean, some fantastic cosplay.
Thank you.
Or all-around nerd. You do some magical stuff with stories and in comics and novels and television movies. Like, Strange New Pods is fantastic. And I will say, I'm super happy to call you a friend. We've been to several different cons together and been able to run around, get in some adventures. So, Giraffe, I'm super happy to have you on today. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super happy to finally make it.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. We will do a Star Trek thing at one point and we'll have you on and you will take us to school like Jack Black in School of Rock.
Betcha.
But today we are talking about the finale to X-Men 97. And this show, for me, it's no surprise that I was bound to like it, probably even love it, but I wasn't expecting to be blown away by it as much as I was. What did you guys think about it? We'll start with Scott. Excuse me. Something in my throat. We're going with Scott, then Giraffe, then Drake.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I knew each episode was getting like better throughout the season, and I just had a feeling it ends strong. But the things we got to see in these last two episodes, like the callbacks to like big moments that I kind of knew about just like through the grapevine growing up. Like I didn't even read the issue, but I knew about these big moments that happened to these big characters, and we got to see it like in these episodes. Like blew my freaking. So yeah, I'll say that for now.
Love it. Draft.
Great TV. I didn't grow up on X-Men, so because I grew up in France and we didn't have it. But
Wait, they didn't have X-Men the anime series in France?
I mean, not to my knowledge, and I spent a lot of time in front of the TV, so
Okay.
it was in 1995. What was it?
So yeah, it started in 1992 and then it literally finished in 1997.
Yeah, I would have been like the exact right age to be watching that on TV, but
Yeah.
so I watched it. I watched the show because everybody was so excited about it around me, and I had a great time.
Nice.
Fantastic time. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And our last person that was supposed to take over has now
what
just
happened?
disappeared. He's gone.
Weird.
He was so blown away by Giraffe's story. He was like, I can't top that. I'm out. So, which does happen from time to time. Yeah, this show, oh my gosh, it was fantastic. Let's start by recapping this final episode because I kind of want to get into the season as a whole by the end of it. But let's start with the recap. And Drake's back. Yay.
Ooh.
All right, Drake, we'll let him unmute and then he can give us his non-spoiler reaction to this final episode.
My non-spoiler reaction to this final episode could be summed up in two words. Oh, wow. Oh, wow, I would choose. As you know, throughout our time covering X-Men 97, I've definitely been off and on and not necessarily been able to watch it fully. I think the episode in itself culminated, like Scott and so many of you have said, in the entire series, kind of leading up to this precipice. It does not disappoint. There's tons of action. There's tons of drama. There's poignant points, I think, that hit upon a lot of socio-political views, as we've talked about before. But mostly, I want to reiterate the fact that after seeing this episode, I don't think that it's entirely for children. It's definitely so much adult themes in this last one, and
that's what I've been saying since episode 3.
I said I reiterated
that's what
it.
I've been saying.
Yeah, that's what I say.
But the internet jumped down my throat when I was like, I don't know if this is for kids, and people were like, "What do you mean it's not for kids?"
everything is for kid-ish. I mean, I don't know you, but I watched stuff when I was a kid that I do not understand, and I had
That's
a
true.
good time.
Yeah.
And then I rewatched it as
Showgirls.
an adult, and I was like, oh, there's subtext that I did not catch at all when I was 10.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. I think I'm looking at it from my adult brain, and I think the deeper themes of this show. I'm gonna say it. I've already said it. You can go back to other episodes, but it's like it feels like it was made for people our age or maybe like teenagers. Maybe I'm not saying it's not for kids, and if you have that relationship with your kids, like go for it, 100%.
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
I'm just saying, like, I don't think that's who they were directing this at. I think who they're directing it at is like people like us. And so,
No, for sure.
man, and this
The
this
millennial
episode,
target.
Yeah.
exactly. I know. Give me the millennial nostalgia all day because I'm so happy. I'm happy we live in this timeline. Now, this episode starts like many episodes right at the end of the last one. We catch up with Magneto, and we are kind of in this flashback to him and Charles Xavier in a bar. And it's kind of this coming out story, really, where Charles is saying, hey, how do you think the world would react to mutants? And he's like, they'd hate them. And Charles is like, I think they'd just be afraid. But once they realize like we have gifts and we can contribute to the world, it's going to be fine. What did you guys think about that initial scene? Let's go with Giraffe.
Oh,
I know. I was like,
I
somebody
was
go.
waiting. You gave an order. I was like, no, following, waiting for
Oh,
my turn.
Sir, yes, sir.
Good student. You know what? It's funny because the more I age, the more I think Charles is an idiot.
Damn.
I'm not gonna say Magneto was right because I mean, he's not really. I mean, nobody is right in this story, but I just think like the blatant optimism maybe was selling better in the 90s than it is now. And I really like that flashback to see how like ingrained in their own story are these two characters. And then in the end, they
Yeah.
will never see it's not going to work.
Yeah. But the hope. It's all about hope. Yeah.
Hope about humans doing the right thing? Sure.
Yeah, I know. We can dream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott, what was your thoughts on it?
No, yeah, I think I can second that. As I watch more and more of these superhero things, there's so many points now in movies where I'm just kill the guy. Sometimes, sometimes they're so bad. You're like, when can someone be bad enough for the
Right.
guys?
What's too
I don't know.
much? Too much.
Yeah, what's
just
too much? Yeah,
end
they're just
it.
like,
Drop
everyone
them
gets a
out
second
of a
chance.
building.
Yeah, throw them into space, something. But I thought it was interesting. It was cool, like the whole flashback thing. It was weird. I guess it's okay that like it ended up being in their mind. It wasn't like a true flashback because to me they still look older. Like I'm like, there's no way they met at like this age.
Yeah.
Like they
Magneto
looked,
had short hair.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, but it was still gray. Like it was like and Xavier was still bald. Like he wasn't bald all his life, right? What's going on here?
I mean,
and I also thought it was
A lot of his life, no?
yeah, receding
Yeah.
hairlines.
yeah. He
man.
probably can't fix it all. I guess.
Yeah,
But,
he was not sponsored by Keeps.
No.
I also thought it was interesting, like the way they just like brought about their powers. It's like, what if I did have powers? Like, oh, that's crazy. And he's like,
Yeah.
I do. And then he's like, me too. I've been metal. Like, I just thought it was like kind of weird. Like,
What? Oh my gosh.
I thought
That's crazy.
it was probably a better way of doing it. And that seems like a misremembered sort of situation in their head. It makes sense because they were in their head, but I
Right.
doubt that's like how it actually went down. It just felt a little like, I don't know. I mean, Professor Xavier, like, why wouldn't he just know he can? Magneto could like, he probably knows whoever, like, he can read people's minds. Like, why wouldn't he be peeking into people's minds at a young age?
But
probably
he's
doing
not
that.
supposed. That's like a big thing with Professor X. He's not
Yeah.
supposed to, and it does happen, but he tries very, very hard not to.
He wants
That's
consent.
like,
yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't always Professor X. Like he had like his
But
childhood.
he always
was-
had his morals, and that's like part of his morals is like not trying to like probe into people's minds when they don't let them. It's like something he really tries hard to teach Jean, and it's like a big thing with their relationship. It gets creepy later on too, but like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it's like I did appreciate it because as we know, Boy the guy who wrote it and the showrunner, everything is is an openly gay man, and I appreciated that we get so much in media, like these big moments of revealing like you're coming out, and I like it because having friends that we know that have come out, it doesn't always play out in those big moments. Sometimes it is just sitting at the bar. Sometimes it is driving in a car. Sometimes it is just like, by the way, I just need to tell you something. And like I liked that idea of it. Yeah, I don't know if that's getting like too deep, but like
No, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna say I don't like that idea.
I had the same vibe.
yeah. But yeah, Drake, what do you think?
I just I kind of enjoyed seeing their relationship kind of par for the course, right? Like Magneto's always like, "Man, I want to do something more," and then Xavier's like, "Yeah, but we can just help people out." And I like it, but at that point, I was like, "Man, this is getting old. I want to see more action. I want to see some differentiation." And we get that a little bit, but at that moment, that's what I felt. So there you go.
Yeah. And I think that does lead us into the next part where we see like Charles takes over Eric's mind, and we see now it's like fully that they're in his thoughts and in his mind. They're in the bar, but the bar is covered in the ocean, and he's starting to like be covered in the water, and he's trying to like find who he is and the peace and everything. And I don't know, there was the slower part of the episode, but I liked what they were doing because Charles needed to reach him here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts there before? Because right after this, we start getting crazy cameos.
No, I like the way they physically show Professor Xavier's powers. A lot of times with psychic powers, you just kind of like, especially in the movies, you see other things being affected, and you're like, oh, they're probably doing that. But physically seeing like these blue beams coming out of Xavier while he's like holding Magneto, and they're like, each other in the air. I was like, that's pretty sick. It felt very much like a living comic. Like, So I don't know. The visuals in this show are amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Giraffe, you got something?
Yeah.
Sorry, it just looked like you had to say something. I was like, yeah,
no, I agree. I'm like, yes. Yes, it's very beautiful. I would say that I definitely need to rewatch these episodes several times because like watching it, I was like, oh, I'm agreeing with that guy. No, I'm not agreeing. Wait, if I do parallels with what's going on right now, with what happened in the past, like with whom do I align was a real question I was going through in my head throughout the episode, trying to process all the choices everybody was making.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, like I like to think of myself, and Drake and Scott would know better. Like I like to think of myself as more of like a positive looking person. I try to be on the bright side of things and stuff. So I always feel like I'm on Professor X's side, yet I cannot disagree with Magneto. Like he was persecuted. He even says like as soon as they start finding out what there is, they're gonna think about like camps and prison and that kind of stuff. I'm like, holy crap, that's where his mind goes when this conversation comes up, and that's very dark and very scary. We see that this shockwave that happens, it continues out, reverberates onto the earth, and we start seeing all the different cameos. We see Iron Man and Captain America are next to the president, and he's, of course they would be in charge in the city. Daredevil is just whooping ass. Doctor Strange.
Let people steal from the great capital, Daredevil.
yeah.
It's like stopping people like stealing food and like TVs. It's like, who cares? Let them do it.
Yeah,
it's the end of the world.
That's true. Yeah, dang it. You guys are right. You're diminishing a lot of these great hero moments where they get to be heroes, but yeah, like you're not wrong. Daredevil, though, I was just so pumped at this moment. Daredevil has to be a top 5 Marvel character for me. So just seeing him, and especially in this show, when Marvel just got back Daredevil, is just so crazy to me. And the fact that we're getting a Daredevil show in the future is going to be awesome. That was super, super cool. And then Doctor Strange. We've had Doctor Strange in the MCU for a long time now. But to see him in this way, brought to an old revitalized cartoon, and that he is the Doctor Strange that we know and yet different, is pretty amazing. So I was so stoked by that. And yeah, I don't know. Anybody else have any cameos in this moment that they want to call out? Oh, Cloak and Dagger. That's the other one I got.
Yeah.
Black Panther.
Ooh, Black Panther
Yeah.
later on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a moment. I wrote it down in specific. It was like a 6:57, and there's this huge beam of yellow light. And then there's like a tower, and there's a just small little figure on the tower, and it looks like a samurai. I think it's Silver Samurai, but
It's a Silver Samurai.
there
Yeah.
you go. I just
Yeah.
really like that shot. It reminded me of Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that part kind of made me laugh just because when all the power went out, he was there. Like, and then the power came back on. I'm like, was he just standing there the whole time?
He
Like the
he
way they
was still
shot
at the
it.
same place.
Yeah, he's like, it'll be
Didn't
there.
move.
Yeah.
He's just waiting. Yeah.
He was just the
I don't
silver
know.
statue the whole time the power was
Yeah.
out.
So hilarious.
Is he helping people? Like, what's he doing, man?
He's just lurking.
But
He's
yeah,
writing
all the
haikus.
cameos were very. I don't know. I know later we're gonna see some more.
Oh,
yeah.
Him hulking out was super cool.
Yeah, that was fantastic episode 9. In this one, he turns into a few really cool characters. But you're right. Yeah, let's get into it when we talk about character moments. And I think that's the other thing that I really, really loved about this episode. It allowed for a lot of great character moments. And we start off with this other sect of them at the beach. We see that Bastion is now fully realized. He's full Sentinel form. In
Yeah.
front of him is Cable. And then we also see to the side of him is Mr. Sinister. And like all seems lost. Tied up behind them in Sentinels is Storm, Forge, Morph, and Beast. And it's like, all right, what are they going to do here? I didn't think Jean was going to die. I kind of knew Jean would be there. But then we get to see her come back as the Phoenix. Yeah.
Right.
Does anybody think like this final form of Bastion is just like so OP? Like he was just dominating in some of these situations. Like I don't remember him being this strong in comic books. Like maybe I'm not reading enough. Maybe I'm not imagining enough. But it just seemed he seemed like a villain that made sense in the entire arc. Very much like Age of Ultron, but like on steroids, and gave it a lot of weight to everything because. Towards the end, they talk about embracing the future. We'll get to that eventually, but he is the future incarnate. And it's very interesting, too, to contrast with Magneto and Xavier's kind of polar ideas of, you know, what mutants can be and what the future, i.e. Bastion, holds, and how this whole thing is them getting to the point of, like, realization. It's a very cyclical but interesting storyline.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty damn OP, though. He's... Like, Nimrod can pretty much take on the whole X-Men team by himself. And he's Nimrod and Master Mold combined into, like, human form. So, he seemed appropriate for me. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, it was a epic final battle. It felt very anime style. Kept leveling up. Kept getting bigger and stronger. But I'm all about that.
It
I'm
was-
a sucker for that.
It was very video game for me. You know, like when you're trying to beat the boss and they keep leveling up and you're like,
Yeah. His health bar goes down,
Yeah.
and then you see a new health
His
bar.
power
go up.
level's over
Oh, second
5,000.
form.
yeah, second form. And then, you know, let's try another formation. Let's try
Yeah,
another weapon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, going back to when's enough, she Jean Grey becomes a phoenix and puts that headband back on him, and then felt like it was like, oh, we did it. And then he's like, not enough. Like I'm like, why didn't we just put him down? Like you were the phoenix. Like how do we beat that now?
It was
Obviously,
very
we
half
get
finished
there, but-
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still really cool.
Yeah, he was just so OP. When he started beating up Cable, though, with his own arm, I was like, this guy is a menace.
Brutal.
Yeah, that was super
Unnecessary.
Why are you
really.
hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?
brutal. Yeah, no doubt. He goes up to Asteroid M. We get to see that. He gets to square off against this team. And Magneto protocols are then firing. And I've been saying it all season, and I mean it, and I think the show has done it the best out of any show I've ever seen, which is like synergy attacks, and it's mutants using their powers in conjunction with another mutant using their powers. And when Nightcrawler started bamfing around Jubilee, I thought that was so sick. And then he bamps Bastion in, and Cyclops blast him. Like the way they were using their powers together was so freaking cool. It's like what I kind of always wanted to see. And then also, I will shout out Rogue too. Rogue gets some of the best action along with some of the best lines quoting Gambit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all the action, it felt very much like a little TV movie we got. Like if you just were to watch them all together, like I was like, yeah, they could. This would be like you buy the VHS copy back in the day. Like I got the X-Men movie, like this could have sold.
Come over to my house tonight. My mom's
Yeah.
making chicken nuggets and I got Kool-Aid. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're all old. That's what I'm learning here.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. Okay.
We're all in that category for sure. But yeah, just the action. Let's just go there. I don't think we touch on all the cameos, but let's talk about the action because I think it'll lead back into more cameos. What did you guys think about the action in this episode?
I liked it, to be honest, but it was at point for me a little bit difficult to follow because I've watched the episode only once also. I have to rewatch it, but I feel there's so many moving pieces throughout the episode, like who is on which team, who's where, who's supposed to be dead, who's down there, who's on the jet, who's on the asteroid, and then they're like in the Sentinel. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So I know that I literally watched that episode in the same way I watched that kind of shows when I was 10. Like I was just going through the motion. And I was like, yeah, badass. Yeah. I was here.
Just a bunch of yes and.
Sorry?
Yeah. Oh no, I was like just a bunch of yes and. Like, yep, yeah, sure. Yeah, why not?
Yes and. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and then, all there's like blast and people are screaming. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm here for the show. I really liked when it was Rogue, Storm, and Jean like just bend up to
they keep the asteroid in there. 100%.
Yeah, that was my only. I always want more Storm. That's the only thing. Like I feel in this show, well, she has her arc, but also she just comes, blast stuff, get shot, and you repeat. I'm like, okay.
I know. I don't disagree with you. At episode 9, I was a little disappointed. Like she does take out some Sentinels, but I'm like, really? Like you're just gonna have her get shot in the back, and then the next episode she's strung up. This is so funny because this morning, if you had talked to me about it, I had zero critiques. I had zero criticisms of anything, and now this is making me think like, yeah, that kind of was not as cool as it could have been. So I don't disagree. Them working together though to hold up Asteroid M, where Storm is using that hurricane power, Jean's kind of holding it in place to push it up, and then Rogue's pushing it up. I love that. I thought that was so
Scott was
cool.
doing some work putting into that energy beam so that he could put on the thrusters. That was pretty intense too.
Oh yeah,
that was sick. Yeah, shout out to Frank because he was like, that was full Marvel versus Capcom, where he took off the goggles and it was just like covering the whole screen. Yeah, exactly. That was, oh man, that was so cool. I loved how they worked together in this moment everybody had their role, right? Like we had seen, again, Jubilee had pulled out something that was from episode 4 of Mojo World, where she saw like the razor blades out of the fireworks and she gets to use it. And I thought, wow, way to like pay off that moment that they had showed us. But now everybody was doing what they could to save the day. And before they get to this moment, before Scott is fully going all out to try to power up the thrusters, there's this really beautiful moment between him, Jean, and Cable in the diner where they're kind of astral projecting to them. Like that scene really, really touched me. You guys all know, or maybe Giraffe doesn't, but I've been a lifelong Cyclops fan, and he's never had really the flowers that he's deserved. And I think this show has finally given him that, and Jean's relationship with him has finally been good. And then that Cable finally accepts them as his parents and appreciates them, and it's like the legends that they told about you have never lived up to how great you truly were. So I don't know. I just love that scene. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
Same. I also really liked when Cable mentioned, like, growing up hearing those legends, it pissed me off because I should have been. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like he's like, I'm just as good. I definitely would have been X-Men. He definitely is. Mm-hmm. But
what a Cable way to say it.
Yeah. Like, oh, I want to. Yeah. Like, it was just kind of cool. It's not what I thought he was going to say. That's why I was like, oh, that's pretty fresh. Like, you see a scene like that and you can kind of predict how it's going to play out. But that was a nice little line. For a second too, I was like, man, what if they just won and done this like Shogun was going to be? now we're getting a season 2.
Mhm.
But I was like, I mean, the X-Men could die, and then they could figure out how to bring them back season 2 if they do it. But I was
Right.
like, that'd be like a super crazy strong way to do it, so epic. So I wasn't sure if like more of the main cast were gonna die on that asteroid.
Yeah.
So for a small sec, I was like, oh man, maybe Cyclops and Jean die here.
Right.
Like that'd be crazy. So they did a really good job setting that up. I'm glad they didn't, but still a really cool scene. I agree, really touching scene.
Yeah.
There's nothing like trauma bonding, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like the whole episode was this, so I was like, "No,
Yeah.
trauma bonding with your kid, okay?"
Totally. Well,
Yeah, my favorite moment in that moment was when Scott was like, "All right, Gene, let's go." It's like such a dad thing to say in that moment when they're talking to their son.
yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh, okay, this makes sense. Let's go." Let's be
I really like the fact that he addressed that, I'm not gonna be like my father. I'm not gonna abandon you. And then he leaves in like, what is it, like episode 3 or something? And I was like, good job, Cyclops.
It's the only way you could
And
save
then-
him, though.
Yeah, and then he actually addresses it in that
Yeah.
scene where it's like, well, I said I was not gonna be like my father and I abandoned you. I was like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
But he couldn't. What could he have done otherwise? Like if he stayed.
But he got to say goodbye.
Yeah, if he stayed, he would have died. If he didn't allow him to go to the future, I don't know. I think Cyclops was fully right in this. I cannot find any fault.
It's just how the scene was,
Right.
when he's like, I am not gonna be like my father. I'm not gonna abandon it.
But
10 seconds later, he leaves. I cannot watch this.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's all the fight you get.
yeah, that's true. They could have spaced it out a little bit longer, without a doubt. Yeah. Oh God, I just love that scene so much. Now we move on. We see that Charles finally reaches to Magneto. He allows him to awaken and kind of remembers his name. Very touching again. This episode got me in the feels, obviously. But when they're drowning in the bar that's in the ocean, you see that he's like, oh, you're going to leave me. Everybody leaves me. I can't remember my parents' face. And he's like, I'm not going to leave you, my friend. I just love how he just stuck with him. He's like, if we drown together. But that's enough to kind of awaken him to it. And he gets out of the trance that he's in, is able to kind of stop the asteroid from falling. And their combined powers stops it. There's 2 other scenes I want to shout out in this moment, though. One, before Magneto awakens, Nightcrawler is praying on the rosary beads for Professor X and Magneto. I thought that was such a great character moment for Nightcrawler, because it's like he stayed so true to who he's been in the comics this whole season. I just loved it, and I thought he had some of the best lines this season. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts there. Yeah, I'll let you guys take it away if you have any thoughts there.
So I don't know how often you have women coming and speak about X-Men, but everybody has been thirsting a lot about Nightcrawler.
Oh, really?
I don't know if the first.
Is he like an online thirst trap? Because I know Magneto's up there.
Yeah, Magneto, but like a lot of the girlies are into.
Yeah,
like,
Magneto?
I've always been into
Yeah,
Nightcrawler, like
Wow.
always, and I have to say that the moment they gave him like 3 swords, I was like,
Hype level
So-
maxed out.
oh yeah, there are full Reddit threads about how hot is Nightcrawler. So I have
Huh.
to say that any Nightcrawler we get, we're very happy. We're here for it. So yeah,
Wow.
he's soft, he's nice, he loves his homies.
He's
You
got a
know,
tail.
Can murder.
Prehensile tail.
Oh, yeah. He's a marsupial.
I did not know that was a thing, but
See, that is why I'm introducing it to your
to the audience,
to your audience. You are not alone.
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I guess if you got some feelings about Nightcrawler, there's a group for you, so that's great.
Oh yeah, many. It's called AO3.
There you go. Wow. Okay. I didn't know that at all. The other moment I want to talk about that I think got the internet a buzz and a lot of people were talking about it was there's a moment, 2 moments. I'm going to prelude it and then I'm going to give you the moment. One was we know that Wolverine got all the adamantium sucked out of him, and Cyclops says to him, "Don't you dare let her down. You're the best at what you do." A catchphrase that Wolverine always says, heal, which obviously we know is his power. I love that. But what an interesting moment for Cyclops to basically give his like lieutenant, kind of best friend of me. Like, hey, my wife has a thing for you. Don't let her down. Don't die. You better pull through. What are you guys' thoughts on that moment?
You know how I feel about love triangles.
You love them.
Cuck.
No.
Jeez.
It's their relationship is so weird. Like, yeah, I know you love my wife, whatever. Maybe she loves you. I'm gonna just pretend it doesn't exist. But address it in these moments. Like going to the other moment where Morph turns into Jean Grey, is like, oh, she'll never say this, and she's like, I love you, Wolverine. Please pull through. And I'm like, dude, like it's just kind of sad. Like the whole team knows,
right?
You know, like this poor dude is just like in love, and it's just never gonna happen. But it's just sad on that level. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool. I liked all the tie-in lines that are like things that you hear in the past. Like there was one in I don't, because I watched 9 and 10 back to back. I don't remember, but Cyclops is giving a suit to
Cable.
someone. Cable.
Yeah.
He's like, "What do you prefer, black
Black leather?"
Yeah.
Black leather, yeah. And it's like comment to the movie. I'm like, "This is great."
That
like,
was
all these, yeah.
one of the best lines the whole season. Besides, my top line of the season is make them mind your weather, sister, and you make them weather your mind. I think that was my number one thing. The other one was a few from Nightcrawler at Gambit's funeral, and that one, because that pays off 24 years of us like having Bryan Singer diss the original yellow suits, and now we've come full circle and people just love the yellow suits. They would have always worked in live action, and now we kind of get to throw shade back at that comment. Oh, I love it.
And then Cyclops.
I like the black leather.
The black leather,
Come
no,
on.
the black leather was great for the time. I'm not saying anything about the suit. It was the comment. That comment was so unnecessary back in 2001. And
because in the movie, the yellow would seem weird, and then in the show, black to them just sounds like we're like a plain black leather suit. And I love that it's Cyclops in both.
Right,
you know, it's not just any other character. He's the one who's coming up.
I mean, just some beautiful loop.
Yeah.
I want to come back on the Morph Wolverine thing because I didn't read that scene at all this way. Because after that shower scene that we got like in episode
3,
2, 3,
yeah,
I was like, oh, there's something going on.
Right.
Like Morph, yeah, like there are shippers like Wolverine, Morph, like know that.
Oh, definitely.
And when he turns into Jean to say, I love you, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Somebody make this happen. It needs to happen somehow. I need Morph to be happy. I need them to be happy.
Yeah, I'm all for it if they go that route. I know there's going to be a big audience out there that's not going to like it, and that is what it is. Like,
I don't care.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't care. I want Morph to be happy. I want them to, be able to say their love with their own face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for this. I know they're not. I can't have anything nice, so I know it's not gonna happen. But a girl can dream.
Yeah. So that question was asked to JP Carliak, who is the voice of Morph at WonderCon, and they were like, "Do you think there's something romantic between them?" And he said, "No." He's like, "Yeah, I'm all for it if it happens." As a gay man himself, but I think he was like, I truly just believe they're close friends. And that's how I proceeded to look at that relationship through this season. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, and there's something special to me being heterosexual male, like, and having somebody who is a gay person and being best friends with them and still just like they accept each other. Like I do love that type of relationship. And that's how I addressed that last scene, like a friend comforting another friend as Jean. But the director or the showrunner today said, no, that was more showing that he has feelings for Wolverine.
Oh, I mean, come on. You can have a best friend. He's going to take your wife's voice and be like, I love you. This is a step.
That's true.
Well, I guess so. But I also just, everyone knows that Wolverine loves her. They had a whole thing about the twin situation and whatnot, and like, and even in that situation, I'm like, why doesn't Wolverine pair up with one of the Jeans?
Right.
And then, I mean, they both have the same memories.
Because nobody can be happy. They all have to have trauma. You know that.
Yeah, then the show can't go on. What are we going to watch? Like, happy people?
Exactly. Boring. Nobody wants that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it's confirmed, but it's interesting because they're the two people that are not at the end. And I think that's at the moment we're at where the group basically gets teleported away. One group goes to, I want to say 3000 BC in Egypt. The other group, which is Jean and Cyclops, goes through 3960 AD. Yeah, and they see Clan Ascani and young Nathan. Yeah, but we don't see Wolverine and Morph. So I wonder where they are. Yeah, let's get into it.
We know where they are.
Where are they?
We do.
Chick-fil-A.
Now we know.
I don't think they're at Chick-fil-A.
Oh, they're not at Chick-fil-A. Oh, it's a Sunday.
Okay.
That's why. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
On Sunday, it's closed down. Go, yeah,
I was
Scott.
gonna say they found a nice room somewhere or something.
Maybe
He's still Gene. Oh, they found their love. It sounds. That's probably what's going.
it's probably.
It was really cool that the I mean, I guess we're gonna talk about it, but
Yep.
seeing the next big bad.
Yes.
Right.
Probably the best
Really cool.
arc, in my opinion, of all X-Men. And it ties into the mid-credit scene. It also ties into Wolverine losing his adamantium and him having to heal. I really liked how they set it up. And I really like how there was a moment where I think it was Eric and Rogue who's looking at our newly introduced baddie,
And Sabanur.
in Sabanur. And they were like, oh. And I was like, oh my god, is this happening right now?
So were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, but I was just so, I was taken aback. I was like, I didn't expect all of it to kind of culminate into that. And then seeing everything and then seeing that jawline
Mm-hmm.
of Apocalypse, I was like, oh man, that's awesome. I'm just glad they did it that way.
Yeah.
It was tight.
Yeah. I think seeing Apocalypse, it's not surprising, but they did such a good job with like Bastion, a villain that I wasn't too familiar with. Now introducing Apocalypse, someone I'm a little more familiar with, and like a storyline I really did enjoy. I didn't really enjoy the live action version of Apocalypse as much as I enjoyed the comic
I don't
version.
think anybody liked that one.
And for a lot of people,
Fair.
it was their first introduction to Apocalypse, and then they're like, "This is supposed to be the guy."
That's a good point,
So,
though.
I can't wait for this show to do it right. And then now, like, people are like, oh, okay, now they can have understanding. Like, whether you like the movie or not, it's fine. But now you get like a better understanding of like what Apocalypse is like if you're not going to read it. So that got me.
Yeah, for sure. Draft.
My co-host on episode 7 when Gambit dies. It's episode 7, yeah.
5.
5.
Yeah.
Episode 5.
Yeah,
Sure.
right.
She watched that episode and she was like, "Okay, Apocalypse is gonna show up
Mhm.
and he's gonna resurrect
Nailed it.
Gambit." I was like, "Come on!" And she's like, "Watch," and I was like, "How?"
Yeah.
He wrote like the end of the season already, so I was not surprised at all, except by the power of premonition from my co-host. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a great tie-in. It's like I'm definitely watching season 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
for
know,
sure.
I'm like, oh, what is gonna happen? So that's great. I don't really like when series just close everything with a neat little bow
Right.
and be like, and come back for season 2. I'm like, nah.
You need to tease you a little bit. And
I need
Yeah.
a tease. Hey, I grew up in the 90s. I need my cliffhanger between like 2 seasons,
yeah,
you know?
for sure. And the best stories, like the best shows that I love, always had that end season cliffhanger. The online consensus for a lot of people, though, was that Onslaught was going to come. And from the comics, Onslaught is a really big bad. When I first started reading comics, because I recently, in preparation for this episode, I went back to like the early 90s and I was reading a lot of it. And I found like it was so crazy. I was scrolling through Marvel Unlimited and I see this cover and I was like, God, that was the first comic I ever bought. And it like fully just kind of like I had this weird kind of out of body moment where I was like, holy crap, I'm finally here, and that this show is here. So that tripped me out. And it was during the Onslaught saga, which, Drake kind of alluded to it. Fatal Attraction, Magneto gets fed up, rips the adamantium out of Wolverine, and during this process, Onslaught is formed. And so the internet was fully convinced it was going to be Onslaught. I wish I had verbalized this more because now it looks like I'm just bandwagoning. But the fact that we got the fact that we got Apocalypse in the intro credit scene, I was like, God, Apocalypse has to come into play here. And we get basically almost 3 different versions of him. We see in Egypt, he's in Sabanur before the Celestials had messed with him, before he had got his armor, before he fully becomes Apocalypse. We get present day, where you guys mentioned, we see that Gambit is now coming back as one of the 4 Horsemen Death. And then we also see in the future, we got Clan Ascani that Jean Grey and Cyclops ended up at. Well, that is a timeline where Apocalypse won. So it's really cool. We've almost got 3 different versions here. I don't know how they're all going to converge, but I think it was really awesome that the Cable tie-in with that, in the intro wasn't just showing Cable in this badass moment. It was like, Apocalypse is coming, but he's really coming in big bad way, a bunch of different ways. So I thought that was so freaking awesome. And God, yeah, I'm so pumped. In the new comic run, like Apocalypse has been such a big bad since the 90s, but now if you've been reading the Krakoan era, there's something that happens. There's a storyline. It's called X of Swords, and it completely flips on its head why Apocalypse is the way he is. And that story just blew me away recently. So I love Apocalypse as a villain. I love his motivation. He's super OP. And I think that this can still lead into Onslaught, but I think we get him at the end of next season. So, this was so good. So freaking good. Yeah.
I wonder, like, I was telling you, I'm not knowledgeable in X-Men. I mean, I watched all the movie. I read a few comics. I watched the show.
That's more than a lot of people.
Knowledgeable than the random person who just logs in Disney Plus. And I wonder how many people have watched that show not knowing anything about, like, X-Men comics. And I wonder how it holds on for somebody who doesn't know the characters. Or just watch the movies, maybe, some of them.
That's a good point.
Do we know how many people watch the show? Like, how they're doing on the
I just saw, like, a headline that, like, apparently the show Echo did better ratings than X-Men 97.
That's true. It did. Yeah. But was still, it's still in the higher category, and it's still, like, pretty good for an animated show that a lot of people that didn't, when comparing to Echo, didn't get as much marketing. So I think it was really successful for the amount of time, energy, money that they put into it. But yeah, it wasn't as high a viewership. But the viewership that's been on it has been nothing but positive. If you look at the ratings for Echo, it was pretty bad. It got review bumped super hard. And I didn't think it deserved it. I thought Echo was a pretty decent show.
Oh yeah, I loved Echo.
Same, yeah, Echo's good.
Yeah. There's a lot of people online hated Echo, or they were just hating on it like preemptively, which is stupid.
Oh, a female protagonist and people are hating it?
Yeah.
Color me surprised.
I know, right? But yeah, it didn't get the viewership. It's crazy though, like for what went into this show from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, I think X-Men 97 was really, really successful for them. It has now been nominated or is in the running to be nominated for an Emmy. And they have come out since I think episode 6 or 7, and they said, we're going to try to produce as many seasons of this as possible. Now, I don't know how that works without Bo DeMaio, who was fired right before episode 1 dropped, because he's also finished writing episode 2, and rogue actor Lenore Zan has said she's finished recording her lines. But this show has been wildly successful for Marvel Studios.
That's good. The nerds are winning.
Yeah. Definitely.
There we go.
I'm pumped about that. But yeah. So I don't know. Let's talk about the season as a whole. Like, let's talk about some of our favorite moments. Where do you think it goes? What do you think that they need to answer still in season 2?
I don't know about the whole what it needs to answer so far, but I think overall, I think this show checked out the boxes. For nostalgia, I love the art. Action was great. Dialogue was great. The writing. There were moments where I'm rooting for people. There were moments I'm crying for people. And it's good when I'm like sad about a cartoon, like things that aren't real. I always check in with myself afterwards. I'm like, everyone's okay. Like, chill. But it's written good when you're like, what? All those especially the Genosha episode.
Oh yeah.
Overall, it was such a solid show. I recommend this to everyone. There's and I guess like you're saying, Draft, like there are like even my coworkers who didn't really grow up watching X-Men, and I try and pitch it to them, and it is kind of, I guess, hard because I have I've got so much more X-Men background that I'm pulling from that I think my love is there. So I try and pitch it in a way where like the writing's great, it's up to date, the comedy's there. I think it is for kids and adults, like you were saying. Things are just gonna go over certain kids' heads. It's not like there's like certain things that are like so physical that kids shouldn't see that. There's a lot of just like dialogue that they wouldn't get anyway, I feel like. So I think it is kind of for everyone. It's a great show overall. I was really surprised when this came out, and I'm looking forward to season 2 for sure.
Yeah. Well said, man. Definitely.
Yeah, it's a great ride. I had a lot of fun. I didn't get into it when it dropped, so I started a bit later, and I just watched, I think, like 5 episodes in a row.
Ooh.
And I was like, what? Where's the rest? Like, I was totally involved, especially Rogue. Really, really touched me. I was with that character from A to Z. The moment she drops him off the roof, I was like, yeah. I think she was beautifully written. I think she was so powerful. It's too bad that we kind of lose her at the end of the season, because I felt her anger, her grief was something I really wanted to see, and I was really relating, which is kind of messed up, but I I wanted this for Storm because I'm a big Storm fan. Like I love X-Men Wakanda. Like I'm like into that character. I felt her arc was a bit weak in my opinion. I was not bored, but I was like,
yeah.
And also I think that's a show. Every episode, I was thinking about a lot of things. Like I was trying to equate whatever was happening with like history and what's going on now in the world, and I was like checking with myself, where do I stand? Who do I think is right? Would I have done the same thing? And I think there's a lot of ethical questions that the show brings up, and they never really, in my opinion, I feel they never really tell you what is the right and the wrong. And I really like when shows do that, because everybody thinks they're right. Every single one of them. And I can see their point. Like I see some point like for each of them. Like I understand Magneto, I understand Charles, I understand even in certain like Bastion, like there are like things where I'm like, I understand where it comes from. But killing people is bad. Let's not do that. Right. Also, I feel that as a random normal person, to see these all-powerful being just like throwing asteroids and like blowing up stuff, and I'm like, and what about the random people were turned into sentinels and then like just dropped out of the sky and died? I'm like, that'd be me, and that's messed up.
Yeah.
So I feel that it's a perfect combo of sometimes very dumb action. Like I like when things blow up. Like this, I like people flying. Very cool costumes. Heroes from my childhood. I mean, teenage years, and also many layers of reflection that I hope audience are gonna think about when you go through these episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. That was well said. I agree.
I think the whole series as a whole, just to reiterate, very modern, nostalgic, very checking all the boxes, as Scott said. The character development, like Giraffe was talking about. I think this is the most fleshed out X-Men series, just in terms of character development and what an individual can take, how they can interpret, how they can feel, how they can relate. Moving forward as well too, I think it sets a really great precedent for what Marvel will have hopefully in live action, and also how they can continue to potentially build out this animated series as well too. Not only other animated series, but potentially going into animated movies. Especially because now we know they can reach an adult like level while still being appealing to kids. One of my biggest qualms was just like, where's Iceman? Iceman's my favorite character. Love me some Bobby Drake. Obviously, my name is Drake, so that makes sense. And we get to see that he's going to be set up potentially for next season, which I guess to me makes sense because Iceman's got some crazy powers. Omega level mutant, so maybe they're really going to show off his powers in season 2 when we have some really big baddies.
Yeah.
But overall, just how this show brought back so much, regardless of I guess how the public views it, we as fans, especially our generation, imagine how much more IPs could be brought back into existence and like
revitalized.
Really be revitalized. Tons of 90s shows. One that comes to mind, and I understand it would be very tough to do, but imagine the Magic School Bus being revitalized in a way much like how we did here. Or imagine like creepy crawlers. Imagine an adult-styled Street Sharks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Be violent.
Be violent. Lots of blood in the water. But
in the streets.
All that being said, in the streets, sharks in the streets. All that being said, X-Men 97 did a wonderful job. I mean, you have 4 people coming together, talking about it every single week because it's making us feel, it's making us remember, it's making us move forward in ways that maybe we haven't thought of before or are more comfortable doing now. And I think it's doing that for a lot of individuals. And just, a slow clap into the end credit scene with one fist being raised in the hand walking through a football field.
There you go. Don't you forget about it. You're right, man. I loved everything you guys had to say about it, and I couldn't agree more. You did mention Iceman, and I want to throw this out there. So we get the 6 months later when they think the team is dead. We see that Forge is in the expansion. Bishop comes back. He's like, I don't remember you. Forge in the original animated series was part of a team called X Factor, and on that team was Iceman. We see that he is a potential to join the team next year. So
next to Havoc. Let's go.
Yep, Havoc. Who else was on there? Let's see. I wrote it. Scarlet Witch.
Exodus.
It said Off-World, Colossus, Dust, Magic, Iceman, Havoc.
Dust.
Yeah. Exodus, Kitty Pryde, and Emma Frost. So I'm excited to see some of those characters join the team. When you guys talked about, I think Giraffe, you were talking about like Rogue and like character moments, like I didn't know I could care for Rogue as much as I did this season. I completely understood her arc. I completely understood why she'd be mad or upset, why she would want to side with Magneto, the one person she could touch, why she's always been in love with Gambit, the one person who's truly cared for her, regardless if he could touch her or not, why she would be devastated when he died. And then at the end, when she starts quoting him as she's fighting Bastion, God, it's so damn good. So I loved Rogue this season. I think I loved all the characters. I feel like there are so many unappreciated characters in X-Men, and at its core, the show
Jubilee. Let's big up for Jubilee.
Yeah. In this episode,
who had the most lines she
Power
ever
upgrade.
had ever.
Yes,
Yeah,
for sure. And like, it's probably not a big thing to a lot of people, but her getting played by an Asian American, I think that was really cool. And that the old voice actress was like, I'm passing the baton on to you, and Jubilee should be played by an Asian American. I thought that was super dope. But you're right. Like, she got so much lines, so much development. Again, at the end too, like, she gets these moments of really showing her growth. I thought that was so freaking cool, like elevating her past, like, this is for kids so kids can understand the X-Men. It's like, no, she's her own character. And we got a new person who's coming to their own and kind of having to deal with this new orientation of their life in Roberto da Costa. I loved that addition to it. Everything, all these characters. I will agree with you too, Giraffe. I wish that they had done a little bit more with Storm. I love Storm as a character. Her whole life-death story in the comics is just so damn good. And that love story, I think it's one of the best written love stories in comics, period, for me, that I've ever written or ever read, I will say. And like, I don't think they completely captured it here. So I wish they did take more time, but I can say this. If you only know you're getting a season 1 of something, you go for broke. And I think they went all out on some of these stories and at the detriment of condensing some of these really powerful stories. And I think that was one that got condensed too much. But I love Storm. I hope she gets more retribution. And I think this does leave the door open for her to lead the team in the future. Although I don't know if they're going to go that route. Like her and Scott, they're backing each other up at a professional level is another relationship that's platonic that I love. And I really dig how they were able to shine that light on it. Jean also getting a lot of great representation, I think, in this show, but there wasn't one character that I felt like got completely dogged except for Storm a little bit. Other than that, I thought they killed it with every character that was in every episode. Yeah. So,
Agreed.
yeah, I don't know. I'm blown away by this show. In my wildest dreams, like I wanted it to be decent. I didn't know it would be great for me. Even with the criticisms, like I can't give it anything less than like a 9.5 out of 10. Like it is so damn good for me, or 4.5 out of 5, whatever scaling you use. Man, like
Yeah.
I love this show so damn much. So yeah, before we wrap it up, any final thoughts on X-Men 97?
Bring more animation. We've had great animation. Pay people in animation also.
Yeah.
They are still fighting for some of their contracts. So, support your animation people and your animation artists. They're doing an exceptional work. I mean, I speak about Star Trek a lot, but they're like incredibly good animation in Star Trek also. We're getting in Star Wars beautiful animation also, and now X-Men. I think they need our support because they're putting out beautiful shows.
Yeah. Agreed. It's awesome. Scott?
That's very well said. Just go on a simpler statement. Just go watch the show if you haven't seen it. Just watch the show.
Man, would you?
There's a character for you in this show.
Yeah.
I feel like any of these characters could be your person that you're rooting throughout the whole show. And if it's Gambit, you're gonna be a little bummed. But
Spoiler.
Hilarious.
Just definitely watch the show. So.
Same. Watch the show. I mean, I think a lot of the times we get caught up in the idea of like thumbnails or like quick hits or, oh, have you heard about? And nobody really takes the time to just go watch the thing. And I understand that time is not a commodity. But considering what it means to us and what it could mean to other people, what it could bring out of other people, I mean, just take it. I mean, it's like 25 minutes, 30 minutes, dude. Do it.
Yeah. Short episodes. The amount they were able to pack in 30 minutes is crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Giraffe, before we close things out, again, tell everybody where you're from, where they can support you. And I think we teased it at the beginning. We have like a certain code we want to drop for the listeners.
Yeah, I have a little present for your audience. So you can find me pretty much everywhere at lyrical_giraffe, and giraffe is with one F because it's in French.
Okay.
I'm also live every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time with Strange New Pod on YouTube. We review all Star Trek. We love all Star Trek. We're also big nerds, so we speak about the X-Men in the middle of Star Trek and Star Wars also. So, come join the fun. I'm at all the local convention with Thomas, so you can come say hi. And I'm also an ambassador for Heroes and Villain, which is a very nerdy apparel website where you can get a lot of very cool shirts, a lot of cool bag. They have an incredible X-Men line.
Ooh,
highly recommend. They have very cool everything. And you can get 20% off your first order if you're in the US. Sorry, Canadian friends. 20% off.
Don't worry about it.
20% off your first order with our code, and our code is strange, STRN. I can't spell.
Yeah.
It's the G and the J in English, always tripping me up.
Yeah.
like strange new pod. So go treat yourself.
There you go. I love it. And we'll have it in the show notes as well too. So yeah, thanks so much, Giraffe, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for following
you.
us all season with this show. Come tell us what you thought about X-Men 97, or if this didn't sell you, I don't know what will. But yeah, this show's just been fantastic. Looking forward to season 2. And Giraffe, we're gonna have you close it out, which is basically just thanks for sticking it with us.
Oh, you're making me say very difficult
Yeah,
words.
making you say the catchphrase. Yeah.
Can I get several takes?
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
Where's my camera?
oh, trust me, there's gonna be a lot of
Ready for my
editing on
close-up.
this episode. Don't worry about it.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah,
Noise.
that's perfect.
First try, dude.
Perfect.
First try.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great.
The Joystick Show.
If you've enjoyed what you've been listening to, we'd really appreciate a follow, subscribe, and a review. Just how we like chatting with our friends, please share this with yours. Feel free to join the squad and follow us at JoyStickShow Joystick Show on Twitter and Instagram, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you feel like submitting topics or questions to be discussed on future episodes, you can email us at joystick.show@gmail.com. As always, thank you, peace out, and make it a great rest of your week.